HTC Tech Wave.
Welcome back to HTC Tech Wave. If you're joining us again, thank you for tuning in for part 2 of our series on AI's impact on customer experience. I'm your host, Neerja. In part 1, we explored how AI is revolutionizing customer interactions, introducing exciting concepts like agentic AI and smarter digital touchpoints. If you missed it, I recommend checking it out for some excellent insights. And today, in part 2, we're shifting the focus to some of the bigger questions surrounding AI. How do we build trust in AI systems? What safeguards are in place to ensure responsible and ethical AI use? And how can businesses strike the right balance between automation and the human touch? Joining us once more are Adnan Saulat and Shammo Ghosh, AI consultants with HTC Global Services and HTC Next. They will examine real-world scenarios where AI is transforming entire industries such as insurance and retail. They'll also discuss the challenges of scaling AI solutions while maintaining trust and empathy. Let's jump right in.
One thing, Adnan, we haven't spoken about is there's fear around deploying AI too widely, right? There's fear that you could have general intelligence and thinking AI truly, not just, an AI that responds to a specific query or a ask that you have. And then, there's also the question around trust, like where's this data coming from? What's the AI being trained on? What type of data is it being trained on? Should I be trusting AI to book my anniversary experience? If I made a hotel reservation or there's a $400 surcharge, I think it could really mess up the sort of unique experience I was looking for, right? So while we are talking about the power that AI brings to the table, I think you started with cogito ergo sum. I'll quote something else: with great power comes great responsibility as well. So how do we trust AI, right? So I'd like to take a couple of points to talk about what we are doing, or what the general industry is doing to build more trust here. Firstly, I think as we take AI problem statements, we are not taking a big bang approach. We are taking an approach that is very incremental. So looking at taking a general purpose AI, but deploying it for a very specific use case before we deploy it for the next incremental use case, right? So if you take the booking travel scenario, today we don't deploy AI where they actually complete a financial transaction for you. We deploy AI where they can do the research for you, and then you're still doing the actual financial transaction. So that's one way, right? Take a very incremental approach towards how you use AI in your life or in the enterprises scenarios. Second is we try to stay away from recommending AI that are being used for critical end customer transactional use case. So booking, actually making a financial transaction using AI is, a great scenario that we avoid. Third is we are building in the trust layers. So bias monitoring. Is the AI making the same recommendation without considerations of caste, creed, color, all of that kind of stuff? Efficacy, tracking. So you made a recommendation. How well was that recommendation liked by the people that you made it for? We are trying to put in the feedback loop so we can get some of that information back. And there's some great mathematical foundations to get those principles checked off, right, and tested. Fairness, transparency, explainability, all of that. So we are building that into any frameworks that we are building for our clients. The fourth area is the data itself that AI comes from. How is that secured? Where are you masking the data so that AI can't have, for example, information that you want to protect? Or where is that data being sourced from for an agentic framework to sort of operate? So the whole vector database, building the vector schemas out, those types of guardrails. And I think the last piece, and probably the most important piece, is the risk framework of keeping a human in the loop. So anytime we are deploying AI, we are also making sure that there is a human process to sort of correct and direct the AI till we build full confidence in it. So I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I think it was important to talk about trust, especially as guidelines coming out of the EU, for example, a couple of the guidelines make trust such an important factor. So with that, let's move on and maybe take it back to customer experience. How do you think this will all play out for customer experience in the future, Adnan?
Yeah, I think, see, when we look at late 90s, most of the interaction was happening on screens, which we generally call the green screens. And there was some kind of clicking that came in with HTML. So screens were predominantly the big experience. And that kind of continued all the way till the big iPhone launch. But in the decade of the 2010s to 2020s, you would see that mobile experience became really rich and simplified. Overall, it became a better experience. From 2020 onwards and well into 2030s, I think AI will do two things. One is it will allow the existing interactions to be more intelligent. We talked about the whole agentic discussion that we were having earlier. So many things will happen automatically that today are broken up into multi-step processes. And our technology is not smart enough to de-risk individual steps. That is the important thing that is happening.
You're so right. And, since you talked about risk, we can take an example from the risk-focused insurance industry itself. So let's say, there's an insurance claim being filed and it's given a categorization, in terms of the claim that allows the AI to process it. Everything from the first notification of loss to additional data or evidence gathering, inspections, to sort of using geo and climatic data for any kind of historical trend validations. All of that can be done through an AI engine accompanied with the agentic process. Up in the Northeast, we had Sandy, and I had a personal claim that I had to do. I think I would have missed, the human touch in that process if everything was being done by AI. Like our claims agent, when we had to go through the process, was very nice. She was very understanding, very empathetic. So that we appreciated. The one thing that we didn't appreciate, though, was the speed of resolution, right? So in our case, the process to get to the decision took about 11 weeks. And all that back and forth coordination, it took a great deal of mind space at that point of time. And every step, what I felt during that interaction was the burden of coordination. What we were talking about from the agentic perspective was on me as a consumer. So file a claim, an inspection is required. There's a list of agents that the insurance company gives you who are approved, but you have to follow up with the agent to figure out a time and schedule an appointment and so on. So I think that whole process, till the point that a check was given and I could get the fixes done, took a lot of time. And I'm thinking that one of the key aspects of experience, while the claims agent was empathetic, but one of the key pieces that would have improved my experience as a customer would have been speed. File a claim, agree. File a claim, don't agree. Maybe it goes into some sort of a dispute. But if that whole process could have happened in 3 days or 4 days, it really, really would have improved my experience.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think there are many abound in other areas as well. If you look at a B2B scenario, I can illustrate how this can help improve experiences in work life. So in a retail scenario, a retailer today publishes weekly offers and promotions. But if you look at the steps that are involved in doing that, it involves using recommendations from, let's say, a rewards program, a store program, a brand partner program, and then running it through some analysis, some of the rules that are there, and then manually reviewing it and passing that list of approved promotions to an agency who then assembles them into a bunch of content and assets. Most of the time, they're kind of reusing specific images and copy that they have been using for other of your promotions. And they'll modify this for a print, pass it on to a printing partner. There are some approval steps thrown in for good measure. Now, today, it is possible to automate all these steps through AI. The analysis to select the list of promotions can be generative AI-based assembly, or even the content and copy optimization of the final output for different channels like print or app or desktop or even store displays can all be done through AI, and it can be handled through a group of AI's orchestrated services through an agentic framework with very few human approval points. We are, in fact, looking at doing this, but it's a great example of how we can drive experiences like professional processes as well.
Yeah, and in that process, you want to make the process faster, cheaper. Definitely, a lot of the stare and compare, busy work, as we call it. You can reduce some of that work, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So I think we were envisioning, a couple of scenarios where customer experience is aided or improved through intelligence and automation, both from the core AI framework as well as the agentic framework. Then you were also indicating that there are other areas where AI can improve experiences.
Yes, the other area that AI will impact is how we run our digital interactions today. So AI will also enable more sensory interactions. We are not thinking about it yet. Voice interactions will, I think, rise, but with wearables, I think the ability to use gestures will become more prominent. AI's ability to interpret human signals, gestures, eye movements, facial recognitions, and new and more wearable sensors will evolve newer interactions. In fact, I have not seen an AR VR device as anything but a gaming platform. And I think the latest iteration of smart glasses, finger rings, wearables, to be sure, I'm not saying screens will go away, but so much of information consumption is visual today. And we are always reacting to information. But I think there will be many more ways in which this information consumption will be combined with capabilities of wearables. It could be earbuds, glasses, rings, and
So,
many things.
so as an example, you're talking about, today I take my phone to make a payment. I could leave the phone at home and do it with my smart ring that also monitors my sleeping and so on. You're talking of something like that?
Yes, that's just the same experience but a different device. I'm saying something like, let's say I snap my fingers and that indicates a specific action for a digital touch point. Even having an idiomatic expression at a snap of a finger, let's say they are able to combine something like that with voice or screen interaction that exists today. It's possible.
Yeah, it's a great example. So let's say I'm running outside. I hate carrying my phone when I'm outside running. If I could wear a ring and then snap my fingers and the ring is connected to my earbuds and it reads out my current running stats. How many miles have I run? What's my heartbeat and so on. So you're talking of really taking these types of gestural expressions and connecting actions, different types of actions to it, and maybe enabling all of that with sort of a virtual agent, right? The agent knows what that action means at that point of time. One of the great areas where we are seeing, for example, the camera being applied or vision AI being applied is in airports today. Like if you've recently taken a flight, I know you just came back yesterday, the non-ID lines where you just go up to a TSA agent, you're not showing your flight ticket anymore. It just takes a scan of your face and then knows what flight you're on.
Yeah. You mean the TSA agent where they take a picture and you don't have to show an ID? Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you think about it, can you imagine the improvement in experience where in the future, specifically where I take flights from Newark, and if you go in on Monday mornings, even the TSA pre-check line is like half a mile long. I'm kidding, but it's pretty long. But let's say, during the peak times, maybe you move more of the agents to the lines that need to be manually marked because maybe they relate to a certain class of passengers, whereas everything else is being done, more automatically. It could actually improve experiences for every traveler that's passing through the airport.
Yeah, imagine this is amazing because it can also scale the operations very quickly. So depending on if there's more rush, you can scale it very easily and you can bring it back to more manual effort once the rush hour is gone. But imagine how the virtual agents can also impact other aspects of life. I'm thinking about your banking ATM line. can it be made less complicated? Is there vision that can be applied to some of those services as well? Not all the services, but a limited set of services, which are, as we look at risk also, and we have to keep that in mind. But how can you have remote agents working in virtual banking 24/7? That kind of thing is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, like a digital bank running a full service branch, but without a human being, or maybe, one branch manager and the rest of it are digital agents.
Yes, some of the airports have already kind of projected those holograms of virtual personas, and they're kind of rudimentary at this point, but they're evolving.
So you could see, I'm a Star Trekkie, so you could see like data from Star Trek in the future being some there to greet you.
Yeah, data in physical form, so more robotic, which is another discussion. Yes, imagine data virtually. How does it look like?
Yeah, I think, customer service, specifically where you still want a human agent, but you want some burst capacity, as we were talking about, would probably be a great example.
Yes, I could see training use cases as great low impact use cases for this, or assistants doing field operations, like let's say equipment maintenance. Those are the things that I think are easier.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. And I know, if we keep talking, we'll take this into Star Trek Generation 6. We can keep going for a very, very long time. But we've got day jobs to get back to, Adnan. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our listeners and thank you for joining today. And Adnan, thanks a lot for joining me on the podcast as well.
Thank you, Shammo, for having me.
And that brings us to the end of our two-part series on AI's impact on customer experience. In part 1, we explored how AI is transforming digital interactions, making them smarter, faster, and more intuitive. In part 2, we shifted our focus to the broader picture, which includes building trust in AI, ensuring responsible use, balancing automation with empathy, and exploring real-world applications in industries like insurance and retail. We also enjoyed some fun insights from Star Trek. The overall takeaway: well, AI is not just a tool. It's a transformative force that, when used responsibly, has the power to revolutionize how businesses connect with customers, creating experiences that are not only innovative, but also meaningful and trustworthy. Thank you for joining us on HTC TechWave. We'll be back soon with more thought-provoking conversations on technology and its impact on our lives. Until next time, it's me, Neerja, signing off.
HTC TechWave.